king.
Hello, this is the third in my series for listening, decoding in use, and number 3 is called Polarisk or Polarisk. I haven't decided yet which is the best pronunciation. I'll explain the term in a minute. So my name is Richard Caldwell from Birmingham, UK. So the reason for the existence of this video is that the IATEFL conference in Manchester in 2020 was cancelled, and my workshop at that conference was due to have been my last act as an active member of the ELT profession. So I couldn't do it. So I've decided to turn some of the content into 4 short YouTube videos with handouts and worksheets available on the Speech and Action website. So this is the third video, Polarisk, the case of can and can. Just a reminder, listening and pronunciation require different goals. The goals for mastery are different. Our goal as teachers of listening is to help our learners understand fast, messy, authentic speech, which is much more varied and unpredictable than what they need to produce in order to be intelligible. The ideas and the activities are derived from a syllabus for listening-decoding, which I published in 2018. This is an experimental unit from a proposed publication, Listening-decoding in Use, from the section called Streamlining Effects, the kinds of things that happen to sounds, syllables, and words when used in normal speech. So you'll see that the top 4 items there in the syllabus or in the contents page is Polarisk can, can't, Polarisk did, didn't, Polarisk is, isn't, and Polarisk an, un. There are many ways in which the Polarisk streamlining effect can play a part in everyday speech. So here's a definition. A polarisk is a moment in the sound substance of speech where the sound substance, is so mushy that it's not clear whether the speaker intends positive or negative polarity. So there is a risk that the listener may hear the unintended polarity. For example, the sound substance may contain mush that can be heard as both can and can't, or, unfortunately, as unfortunately. In these circumstances and in others, polarity is at risk, therefore polarisk. So here are a few examples. Can, can't, did, didn't, was, wasn't, is, isn't, totally rational, totally irrational, and fortunately, unfortunately, very legal, very illegal. In many accents of English, learners find it difficult to hear the difference between positive can or can and negative can't or can't. This is not their fault. It is a feature of the sound substance that the sound shapes of can and can't can sound the same. So learners have this difficulty. I have this difficulty. In many accents of English, I find it difficult to hear the difference between positive can and negative can't. This is not my fault. It is a feature of the sound substance that the sound shapes of can and can't may sound the same. Let's look at some information from the wonderful John Wells's wonderful dictionary about the pronunciation of can and can't. So can as a verb meaning be able has a strong form, can, weak form, can. Can't has the pronunciation can't, can't, can't. And before a consonant, less frequently before a vowel, it's also can or can. So unlike can, this word has no weak form. Now these entries reward careful study, because if I just put them into my font, notice that one sound shape can stand for can, C-A-N, and the same sound shape can stand for can't. So can and can. That's a key point. So I've trawled around a bit and found these different pronunciations listed for can and can't. I'll have a go at doing them myself. I'm not very good at this, but let's have a go. Top row, RP or General British English, can, and then negative, can't, can, and then American English and others, can, can, and then in the middle, can, can't, can't, can. Notice there's a middle column where it could be one or the other. One of my favourite musicians of all time is the wonderful Randy Newman, who you might know best for the Toy Story theme tune, You've Got a Friend in Me. He was interviewed by the BBC in 2017, and first time listening, I couldn't determine whether he was saying C-A-N or C-A-N-T.
In terms of writing, I can give you advice. In terms of writing, I can give you advice.
So I put this out for a vote. Colleagues online, 11 people voted for can, positive can, 6 people voted for can't, negative can't, and 1 person voted for don't know. She said she was stumped.
In terms of writing, I can give you advice.
But in the same interview, he said this.
You can't win.
Which I think almost everybody would agree, even first time hearing, that that's C-A-N'-T, negative, can't, in my accent. So let's compare the different can'ts, both in the context of the sentences in which they occurred and as isolated. So here we go. This is, in terms of writing, I can give you advice.
In terms of writing, I can give you advice.
And then you can't win.
You can't win.
And then the isolate form.
Can't.
So it was only by expert analysis, by means of re-listening and machine analysis, that we could categorically determine that the difference. So if you're trained in phonetics or you can do a machine analysis of the sound file, you may determine that the evidence points pretty certainly to either one or the other, either can or can't, either the positive or the negative. But such analysis requires careful re-listening to or machine analysis of the sound substance. But for real-time once-only listening, reasonable hearings of this extract include opposing views of whether it is can or can't which has occurred. When the sound shapes for can and can't have the same vowel, can, it can be difficult to hear which one has occurred. The context may make it clear which meaning is intended, but you cannot rely on context all the time. As a listener, you have to ask checking questions. So let's look at an activity, which as usual starts off with greenhouse forms. So isolated forms where we protect every segment. So we can't actually afford the tickets. So I can't actually come tomorrow. And he can't actually do the concert. Now we take the same sentences into the garden, applying connected speech rules. So we can't actually afford the tickets. So I can't actually come tomorrow. And he can't actually do the concert. Okay, so those are garden forms, relatively tame, ELT friendly, sight substance friendly versions of the sentences. But we're teaching listening. Very often this could be mush. In the word crusher, we have jungle forms. So he can't actually afford the tickets. So I can't actually come tomorrow. And he can't actually do the concert. So I have deliberately made that not can't but can pronunciation, which can easily be heard one way or the other in terms of polarity. But if we were to do this in RP style, we would not have a problem with polarity. And so many explanations of this problem depend on the RP difference of vowel. So we can't actually afford the tickets. So we can actually afford the tickets. But if we switch from the world of RP to a non-RP world, which is considerably larger, and then consider how these sentences might be said in the jungle style.
So he can't actually afford the tickets. So he can't actually afford the tickets.
Here's another one.
So I can't actually come tomorrow. So I can't actually come tomorrow.
Here's another one.
And he can actually do the concert. And he can actually do the concert.
Those preceding slides were a setup for a dialogue practice where learners experience a mush and they cannot determine whether it's a positive or negative meaning intended. So in order to mechanize the dialogue, we need some responses. And so if the learners hear the positive, they say, great, good, marvelous. If they hear the negative, they should say, what a shame. And if they are not sure what they've heard, they say, I'm sorry, did you say can or cannot? And here is the dialogue that you can practice in the classroom. As it's only me that's here, I won't do it. So in the classroom, this is how to do it. In pairs, one person takes it in turn to say the can or can't sentence that's given on the left. And they decide for themselves whether they're going to say it positive or negative. And B takes on the words in the right-hand column, and according to whether they have heard can or can't, they choose their response that's given on the right. It's quite easy to set up in pairs. You could also do it in trios, where you have A doing the column on the left, B doing the column on the right, and C being the teacher to act as a kind of referee and arbiter between A and B. There's a conventional handout available on the website to help mechanize this activity, along with sound files. Right, so that's towards the end of this video. In these 4 videos, I'm demonstrating design ideas for a future publication. But as I'm retiring from active participation in ELT, I'll be neither authoring nor publishing Listening, Decoding in Use. So if you know of a publisher who might be interested in buying the rights to this design, do encourage them to get in touch via my website. So thank you very much. Thank you.